Hello, my name is Dr. Katrin Meidell, and I am the viola professor at the Schwab School of Music, Columbus State University in Columbus, Georgia. Today I'm going to give you a tutorial and then perform for you the 11th and 12th grade 2021 Etude, which is Mazas, Etudes Speciales, the Pagels edition, and this is Opus 36, Book 1, number 20. And it is titled Shifting. So that is a pretty good indicator about what this is all about. It's all about shifting. So this is Etude number 20, and they want us playing it at quarter note equals 70. So I'm just gonna give you a couple of tips, and then I'll go ahead and perform the Etude for you. So the first thing to know is that there's a typo in the PDF that's available, which is there's a rogue fourth finger marking at the top of the second page, and that just shouldn't be there. So if you look in the middle of the first line on the second page, so the second measure there, we're starting in third position, then we go into second position, and then for some reason there's a 4 marked underneath the D. Just ignore it, cross it out, that should be a 3. So, not, because that's like a lot going on. So just cross out the 4, forget about it, and move on. So, shifting. Really quick tutorial on how to do a shift. In an ideal world, you keep your bow moving during the shift. You do not raise your arm weight out of the string, so you want to actually keep the bow moving at a constant rate. And it's funny because you think shifting's on the left side, but actually it has a lot to do with the right side also. So a common thing that I see with students is they're trying to hide the shift so they either stop the bow or completely lift their weight out of the string, but that just makes it that much more obvious that something's going on. So on the left side, you want to imagine that the shift looks like a staple. So we start with our finger in the string, then we lift to harmonic level, we travel on harmonic level, and then we add the new finger weight, or if it's the same finger, going back to stopped pressure. So what you want to do is make sure that we're not squeezing the bejeebers out of our fingerboard. So you have a nice loose hand, and then you're going from you're in the string to harmonic level, and then shifting on top of the string, and then adding. So if I do a shift in blown up world where it's like really under a microscope, so if I'm saying I'm going from F sharp to G, so while I'm traveling, I'm replacing the finger, but you notice that I get to the new position on the harmonic level before I add that. So I'll do that one more time. And then if I do that a little bit faster, it ends up looking more like this, but it still has all of those elements. And if I do anything weird with the bow, that was just a stop, right? Or you can hear how that just changes the sound. So you want to keep the bow moving and get that staple shift feeling in the left side. So this etude mostly is in first, third, and fifth positions. We definitely get some second and fourth in there also, but the big positions are 1, 3, and 5. And hopefully by this point you've gotten pretty comfortable with 1 and 3. 5 can be a little bit tough, but what I want you to think about is that fifth position is fifth position, and so it's not different from one direction or another direction, and it doesn't feel different on the C string than it feels on the A string, for example. So the way that you got really used to being happy and comfortable in first and third, you can actually achieve that in fifth position. And so what I would have you do is just sit in fifth position and figure out where that is. And you'll notice that as I'm going up, I'm starting to swing my hand up so that my fourth finger can also reach the string without having to like do some kind of a reach around. So if I'm on my B, so first finger on the D string, you need to be able to have that perfect fourth between 1 and 4 without having like some kind of, what I see a lot of where the hand stays low and the finger gets to the right spot, but then the other fingers, they can't reach. So you end up having a lot of extra motion going on there. So when you are going into fifth position, so you can check that way. Am I getting up to fifth position? Can I play a perfect fourth between 1 and 4 without having to readjust my hand? This etude, I think, I actually think it would be a little bit easier if it were a little bit faster. For me, I kept wanting to go faster than it's actually written. So be sure that you're subdividing before you start playing. You want to really feel the triplets before you start going. If this is our meter, triplet, 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 triplet. So I'm actually thinking that before I start playing. So in my mind, I'm thinking bum 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 bum. Sorry, that's hard to do while playing. But so I'm actually thinking those triplets in my mind before I start playing. So I'm joining the continuous rhythm. It's not something that I start when I start playing. If I start counting when I start playing, it's a lot easier to mess it up. So start counting before you start playing. The other thing is in the fourth measure, as soon as I hit that quarter note, I actually change the way I'm subdividing from triplets into 16th notes. So I've been going dun, 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 dun. But then as soon as I finish the third measure, I go da, 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 so that I have the right division for what happens next. So if I go from measure 3, bop, 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 so that I have a nice even rhythm there. And if you are able to keep your subdivision really stable, then you won't speed up or slow down. So that is why subdividing everything always is a really great thing to get in the habit of doing. I think that the bow distribution is tricky. We have a lot of notes with shifts happening. So what I want you to think about is a fairly slow bow, because we have so much going on the left side that you don't want to be worried about running out of bow. So if every single down bow you start with like a fairly slow bow, then you don't have to worry about running out of bow at the end. Whereas if I just move like with regular speed, I've already run out of bow, right? So I want to save. Same thing when we have, down bows to up bows. So when I start something on an up bow, so even though it looks fairly even, like I'm getting a triplet, a triplet, a triplet, and a triplet, I am actually thinking slow and then slow, so that every time I change the bow, I'm starting with just slightly slower bow. So the other thing is, even though this is an etude, it is also music. So don't be afraid to enjoy what you're doing. And maybe there are a couple of spots I think that you can really enjoy. For example, we get this cool, that's fun, right? And then later on when we get isn't that nice to sort of luxuriate that, the up and then the down. I can't imagine that the jury is going to say, nope, it was too musical. So go ahead and enjoy making some music. In a couple of measures, we get some accents. So this is the fourth to last line on the first page. We end up with accents on each beat. And I want you to think about those accents in terms of bounce, 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 bounce. So I'm actually pushing the stick closer to the hair on each one of those notes. So you can actually see that I start with a stickier bow, let it go, and that's going to give you those nice accents. And we get those in a couple of spots. All right, so at the end of the third line on the first page, we get this gargantuan shift going from C sharp up to B flat and then back down to your C sharp. The first thing that's really important is that you know what the notes sound like. So I would actually have, before you try doing it up in position, I want you to play it in first position so you can hear what the notes are. So you can really hear that interval, because that's kind of a wonky interval. You can also do it just in third position. And then if you know, so I'm playing this note, and in my mind I'm thinking, yeah, yeah. It's going to be that much easier for me to find the pitch if I know what it sounds like. The other thing with this really big shift is when we reach it, think about where your first finger is. And then you can just practice that shift from the first finger to the first finger in the right position. So that you know where your hand is going, and then you just add the fourth finger. So you can hear that little ghost note, and that helps me get to the right position. We don't always have the option of playing notes in first position or third position, because sometimes they're higher than that. So in the sixth line, we get some notes that are way up there. What you can do is play them down an octave. So figure out what the note names are, play it for yourself an octave lower, and that way you can hear how the notes relate to one another. Another thing you can do, if you have access to a piano, you can just plunk out what the notes are so that you hear it. Again, if you know what it's supposed to sound like, it's a lot easier to do it than if you're just flying blind. So I talked about this earlier, but I just want to reiterate how important it is that you keep your bow moving during your shifts, because we don't want to hear something where we just get a stop basically every time there's a shift. So this would be the wrong way to do it. You can hear how just disjointed that is. So keep the bow moving, keep the weight in the string. Because that's going to give you a much more cohesive piece. In the third to last measure of the etude, I've written for myself a $, which means save. So I want to save bow. So this is going to be on an up bow. I have, that's a lot of beats for one bow. If you use normal bow speed, you end up really compressed at the end there, so save at the beginning. And with the articulation in the second to last line, you want to basically stop the bow gently between each note. But I'm not letting my index finger out of the stick, so I'm basically just stopping bow. And then finally, the little accents that we get at the beginning of the last line, they're that bouncy push that so you want to, so I'm gently pushing my stick closer to my hair, and that is on an up bow if you do the bowing correctly. So in the context of the piece. So I will go ahead and perform the etude for you now, but if you have any questions about anything, feel free to email me and I will do my best to answer them. Thanks for watching.